Yo, what's up, fuckers? Welcome back to the Lyric Podcast. I am your host, X Trigger, joined alongside a brand new guest, Craft. How you doing, fella?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks. Yeah.
Great. So, let's start this podcast by addressing the elephant in the room, which is you leaving, I suppose, CNA tryouts to join WSLG and then winning the split. What was that all about?
Okay, so last split, I was trying out for CNA. I was
Yeah,
trying out for WSL as jungle. Obviously, both of them were role swapped because obviously, like, I went into that split having only ever played mid properly.
yeah,
Uh, but I really wanted to win a split because I've never properly won a split. I've been on teams which have won splits multiple times, but I've never properly won one.
yeah.
So I really need to win one. The teams which I thought were good only really had spaces for like jungle. So I role swapped to jungle. I did try out for both teams. I thought I was going to join CNA. Then I did try out for WSL Green. I preferred them just over like I don't know. I really liked working with Jack again with Kodachui, who I've
Yeah.
played with before. I felt that Silverback was really good, and just that like the general sort of support network was good. Obviously, you had Hyper, so like coach wise, but I wasn't convinced on that. Not because Hyper would be a good coach, but just because like activity wise, I wasn't sure how active he was going to be. So
Fair.
yeah, so
that man disappeared very quickly.
yeah, exactly. So I joined the Brazil Green based off that, and then it kind of all went downhill from there. But we won. So, but yeah, it kind of just came down to comfort. Like, obviously, I knew Silverback. I mean, at that point, we didn't get along particularly well, but I knew him,
Yeah,
and I trusted him. And I knew Jack, and I felt I could work well with him in the mid lane. Probably slightly better than I could work with Nav, if only for the fact that like I've worked with Jack before.
yeah.
Um, and I trusted him to be able to carry if I got. And I got on with everyone on the team. Obviously, at that point, it wasn't Bow ADC, it was Bufu ADC, who then turned out to be Plat without specifying it. And I felt that yeah, at that point, I felt our bot lane was strong, and obviously we had Terry top, which goes without saying wasn't necessarily the strongest lane, but I didn't feel like something was particularly either. So it was like, I don't know. I just felt more comfortable with WSL Green, I think. But yeah, it kind of went downhill from there. So I guess we won.
So the AD carry situation is something that
Mm,
I'm a little bit curious about because obviously Bauer started as a tryout for WSLG, did not go well whatsoever, ended up
mm.
going with yourself. But what was the AD carry situation like when, first off, when you found out this guy was Plat, the desperately trying to find him with like 2 weeks to go, whatever it was, and settling on
Yeah.
Bauer, and then how much did that change the team dynamic? Because from an outwards perspective, it sounded like he just came in and tried to take over, but obviously,
Well, yeah. So we have been scrimming with Bufu for quite a while, and we even had like a pre-season video with like our main champs, quote unquote, on it.
oh, of
And
course you did,
Bufu,
yeah.
if you watch it, the ADC which comes up is Lucian, even though it says Bauer's name because Bufu's main is Lucian.
All right,
Um,
yeah.
so we were like fully set up, and then uh, after one scrim, I think Silverback maybe, or maybe he said himself. But anyway, we noticed somewhere this peak rank was actually Plat.
Right.
And we're like, you can't play, mate. We said you have to be peak rank like goal one or whatever. And it's like, oh, I thought you meant season one. I don't know. It was some weird
Yeah.
fiasco. Like there were no hard feelings about it. And like I think he was a sub for WSLR at one point as well. And like he's genuinely a good player. But obviously did leave us in a bit of a sticky situation because he had no subs whatsoever. So we're like, right, we need an ADC pronto. So
I mean,
look star went out, look one.
at this point, sorry, were you
Mm,
the main shot caller? Because I know that
yeah,
was between both teams. Not only did you have to roll swap, you had to start being a shot caller as well, which is just something that you weren't really used to
yeah,
doing, especially when you're on.
exactly.
I mean, originally 7DS, and then who was it after
Uh,
7DS? Or
I've
did you
been
take a
on
split off?
7 years. I went to Hentai Haven for playoffs after I came back from holidays
Oh
because
yeah,
I got kicked. And then I was on. That took a split off. I was a sub for PMA briefly, but never played. Then I played for Pro, which is that team without
oh,
Yuqan't
of
and
course,
Alu.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
that
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 went
that
well.
was a whole nother mess. Um,
But yeah, so so
and then
so you
yeah,
had to be the shot caller for
I never played.
WSLG. When Bauer
Mm.
came in, how much did that upset the tide of things?
Right. So I was main shot caller, and the intention was even when Bao came in, I'd be main shot caller. When Bao
Right.
came in, there were discussions that I would go ADC, which was my secondary role, even over like jungle at that point, because I'd always played mid and ADC. And Bao would go jungle.
Yeah.
It was kind of decided that it would just make sense to, since I've been practicing shot caller, I've been practicing jungle for so long, that I would stay jungle. And Bao would go ADC. And then almost the instant he joined, shot calling started coming from both me and Bauer. Like it wasn't necessarily like us trying to disagree with each other deliberately, but it would be like I would sort of like shot call early, that'll be fine. And then the second big team fights would happen, it would be like, oh, we're doing this, and I'd be like, no, I think we should do this. And then something would go wrong with either one of our calls, and then we'd be like, well, just leave me to call or whatever. I don't know. It wasn't super messy. It was because part of it was that I was like too quiet as a shot caller, so Bauer felt a need to like step in.
Yeah.
But it did find it. I did find it difficult because like I said, role sword. I was trying to shot call, and then whenever I tried to make a call, Bauer would make a different call if he felt like it. Like if he disagreed, rather than being like, "Oh, let's talk about the game or whatever," he would just be like, "No, we're doing this." And because he's the ADC and like had most of our farm and most of our damage, we couldn't really like not go with him. So I just feel sort of like overpowered in that situation. And I would be lying if I said it wasn't a cause of tension for quite a while. I found it difficult because I was trying to sort of learn shot calling, and after every game, it also made it really hard to find out where it gone wrong because we'd be like, oh yeah, this call was bad, but there were so many jumbled calls between me and Bouter, both making shot calls. It wasn't as easy to just be like, oh yeah, Craft, you need to look at your shot calling here, or like consider this through. I had to be like, oh, Bauer said this too. This is Bauer's call. Maybe Bauer shouldn't have made that call. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was messy, and then the decision was still that I should be primary shot caller and that Bauer shouldn't say anything unless like literally nothing was happening. So if like I was being completely quiet and there was so obvious, Bauer should be like, oh yeah, maybe we set up for Baron here, or maybe we look to contest Drake here, or something like that. But unless that was the situation, I should still be primary shot caller. But I mean, it kind of resolved itself by the end of the split. But it took time, and certainly him swallowing for Befu, who was quieter and more willing to just let me shot call, was quite a massive difference. And did cause tension for a while. But yeah, it wasn't the easiest thing to get used to.
But it works in the end. In general, with when it comes to shot calling, because
Mm.
I had a very similar situation back when I was trying out for Ike, and when I was trying out for Ike, it wasn't as AD carry. It was before that. I was trying out for jungle. This is before I moved to Deja Vu, and then before I left Deja Vu, role swapped to AD carry and went to WSL, which is weird. But the issue I had was you had me, Endeavour, and Impress all trying to shot call at the same time, and everyone would talk over each other, and it became to a point where I would just become the beta of the situation and just let it be between those two. But you'd still find these very pivotal situations where Endeavour said do A, Impress said do B, but because they were both do commands, you got the team in disarray. So, in just general, in a more generalized shot calling perspective, what's your view on how a team should shot call? So, should it be one person just saying the do command if we do this now to get the quick and effective, everyone's just going to follow orders plan? Or do you prefer the more maybe we do this, should we look at this, where it could be a little bit more wishy-washy, you don't get as good results, but maybe as a collective you get a better result in terms of the perfect shot call? Which do you more settle towards, or would it be any variation between the two?
So on teams I've been on, it tends to be the sort of like do command, because obviously like on pros with Valk, who's famous that he's like, oh yeah, we are doing this, and like Valk is one of the players who like lots of people like say he's a great shot caller, and then lots of people, or not lots of, but some other people are like, oh yeah, his shot calls are actually awful.
Yeah.
But he always did find success because he was like, oh yeah, we are doing this, and like it might be the wrong call, but at least it's like all 5 players doing it. And then similarly on 7DS, obviously I had Endeavour there, who I guess you know from full experience, kind of just takes over whatever games he's in and tells you what to do, which was fine. At WSL, it did end up being more like the latter one. I mean, I did try to be like forceful and assertive, but ultimately I knew full well that if I was like that, then it would end up with Bauer trying to be like that as well, and we would just get into this back and forth, which resulted in nothing. So
Yeah.
in the end, it was more like, do you think we should do this here? And everyone's like, yes. Or everyone's like, no. Or someone would be like, oh, maybe we set up a 1-3-1 instead. Or maybe we do this thing. And it was, once we got that down and we actually like understood that, okay, I make the final decision, but everyone can pitch in to an extent, it worked fine. I actually think like some of our shot calling towards the end of the season, or certainly in finals, was fairly good for the most part. But in the early days, when we were still sort of deciding what was happening, it did make for very, very messy calls. Like even if it wasn't a do thing, it was like, oh, should we do this? And Val would be like, oh, I think we should do this. And then Ty would be like, oh, let's set up 1-3-1. And they would end up with like Terry top lane split pushing, Bauer like fine my jungle thinking we're not contesting Baron, and me going for a steal on like Baron at like 100 HP. And it would just end up with a complete mess. So I think like if you want instant success, if you're like looking for one golden split or whatever, just having one person who tells you exactly what to do is optimal, because it just happens. There's no really sort of learning curve to it. But I think if you don't necessarily have that person who is super confident in their shot calls or isn't particularly great at it, you can certainly work towards a sort of double shot calling scenario, as long as like you are clear not to talk over and you still have someone who makes the final decision. But I think I would still lean towards the having definite person do something, because like I said, I'd rather have 5 people make the wrong play as a team than have like 4 different people across different points of the map
Doing different things, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. So going back to WSL in general, you've got this incredible tryout system that they set up for that split of 50 people, maybe more, I don't know, all trying out for all these different roles. There's this big tournament that's going on. It's really interesting to watch. And it gets whittled down to this 5 when you think, okay, they've got a really good support network. They've got, obviously, it's Stephen Snake's organisation, but we know he's not really going to be around that much. But there's Luxor, there's Fatal, and the Silverback is the main 3. They're going to make sure that this all runs. How much of you, during the tryout period, was kind of looking at that infrastructure and saying this is what would make this a good organisation, as well as obviously the fact that they've never lost and nor had 7DS, but was it that infrastructure that was a big pull? And then when you actually became part of the team, what was the reality like? What were these 3 people actually doing on a week-to-week basis?
So I wanted to win, and I felt WSL gave me the best chance of doing that, both on like statistical record and also in theory based on the infrastructure. Because like ultimately, if they are winning so much, you would assume their coaching staff with different rosters, you'd assume their coaching staff is good. But I kind of went into it thinking like, oh, maybe like Luxar would be the best, and Fatal is probably pretty good, and I don't particularly like Silverback, but I'm sure he'll be fine. And I came out of it with the complete opposite view. Luxar is fine, but does like very little. Like, it's not that he can't coach or isn't good at it. I mean, the times he helped, he was fine, but ultimately he had other priorities. Certainly outside WSL Green, I don't know what it was like for WSL Red, but certainly with WSL Green, he kind of came in occasionally to chip in. Fatal was awful. I actually think he might have been the worst person I've ever had the chance of working with. Not necessarily as a human being, I'm not going that far, but as a coach, he was abysmal, in my opinion. And then Silverback, who I had very little sort of expectations for, is probably the best coach I've ever worked with. And despite the fact that WSL Green wasn't his team, gave us more help more helpful comments than Fatal ever did. Fatal gave us a lot of time. The time was a complete waste.
You don't like those 30-minute pauses in between scrims where you just get absolutely roasted for no reason whatsoever? Because I thought they were dead good and productive.
Never in my life. The guy, he would turn up for drafts late because he'd be playing Final Fantasy. He would tell everyone to message him in his DMs and then complain that people didn't. And then the one time you do message him, he would take days to respond because he was playing Final Fantasy. His entire philosophy of League was based around pro play. So every pick had to be what was strongest in pro play, just ignoring the fact that 1, pros can be wrong, and 2, we're not pros. Every thing he taught us wasn't like the basics of wave control, whatever. He was like, oh yeah, you need to learn that on your own. I'm going to show you how to do a herald rotation because that's what works in pro play. And then we became the most predictable team ever because we would do a herald rotation literally every game. Towie and I would always be the most flames. I mean, maybe Towie's was deserved, I don't know. But we would like lose games, and I would still always be the problem. And then I would try to have like a two-way conversation with him and be like, right, yeah, I get it, I made this wrong or whatever. But personally, I'm not comfortable on jungle, and I don't think jungle's necessarily that big a carry role. And he'd be like, what is a carry role? And I'd be like, what? Well, yes, but I'm playing Lee Sin. Late game, I'm not going to be doing that much. It's like, the game should have been ended at 20 minutes. You playing Lee Sin, you played it badly. And I was like, yes, but it's like, no, you're bad. And I'd be like, oh, okay, problem solved then.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're bad, so pick Lee Sin. Sounds like a great,
I
great
don't
little
know.
bit of synergy.
And then by the end of the season, I was only on Sejuani and Trundle. But Trundle, it took me forever to even get him to let me play it. It was only until Pro started playing it that he thought it was good. Because like since the beginning, I was like, I know how to play it. It's a really good pick in Sejuani. Let's play it. And he was like, no. Gragas Sejuani is what's played most in Pro Play. You have to play that. And pick up Kiana. And it's like, oh, Kiana's banned now. And then Trundle would start playing Pro Play, and he'd be like, oh yeah, play Trundle because pros are playing it. It'll be quite literally black and white like that. Or like I wouldn't be allowed to play Talia, even though it was my most practiced champion because I played her mid a lot.
Yeah.
And then the second Pantheon Talia came popular. It was like, oh yeah, let's play Pantheon Talia. It was so outside of, oh yeah, it's bad if you play it, but if pros play it, then it must be good. I don't know. It was a weird scenario to be in, and he was genuinely useless, if I'm being honest. Like
just straight up garbage.
He was so bad. Every sort of session with him would be him asserting why he was right, why his picks were not the reason we lost that game, why the draft was amazing, how it was lost because God knows what, and how Bauer carried anyway, which might have been true. Bauer was, I don't want to blame Bauer that hard because he was like Bauer was a good ADC, so I don't want to be like too toxic about it. But even early on, had issues with the fact that like Bauer would take every piece of farm. Like genuinely, like I did not have a jungle when Bauer was in the game because it would reach 20 minutes and like everything would be his. Which is like, fine in the games he carries, but in the games he carry, you're just like left with no income. And then I don't know. And then after the game, it's like, oh yeah, well Bauer still managed to get 10 CS per minute, so you're clearly doing your job wrong. The fact that Bauer didn't carry, I'm like, well, the reason I didn't have 10 CS per minute is because Bauer has all my farm. Like,
that is fair enough. One thing I want to point on though is the fact that you said Silverback was the best coach you said you've ever had, but you also said that you're part of PMA as a sub for a little bit, which does obviously spark the question of who's better, Looney or Silverback, which I'm sure a lot of people in VL would have a question about, and you're probably the only one who's been in a player v coach relationship with both of them. So, first off, how much interaction did you have with Looney only being a sub? Like, were you still part of the coaching sessions that he put in?
Personally, so this is the weird thing. Before Looney came onto TE, on Team Elite, I was technically the coach of that team. Right. So when they brought Looney in, I had the reins over to Looney and I had a chat with him. But I bore witness to like everything he did on like TE and PMA.
Yeah.
So although I wasn't directly involved in it, I always did rate Looney as a coach because I knew how much he did behind the scenes and like how much he committed to making sure his players understood freezing and understood CSing and understood the basics of the game, which is what Fatal didn't do.
Yeah.
So as a coach, I rate Looney, right? But Silver, the reason I rate Silverback higher is because WSL Green wasn't even his team, right? It was like a roster within the organization he works, but WSL R was his team.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the split, after the NSKA game, I was so done with the issues I was having with yourself and the issues I was having with Bauer and the issues I was having with Fatal. I was not sure I was going to complete the split. I generally thought I just wouldn't play finals and that would be it and just find it up. I was so mad about what we got.
Yeah.
I was like, I joined here to win the split, and even though we're in finals, I don't fucking want to play it. Someone else do it.
Yeah.
And Silverback after the game, because like the final game I was on Diana and went like 7-3 or 4 or 5. I don't know how many deaths I had. But anyway, I had almost all the kills on our team, and every lane hard lost. And in typical fact, felt like my fault in Fatal's eyes for not being able to carry it. Even though going into the game, he was like, I don't even know what your champion does. So I don't know why we're picking it, but sure. And so, but after the game, Luxar did message me too, actually, to be fair. But both Silverback and Luxar messaged me. I was like, don't worry, that wasn't your fault. And I was like, okay. And then Silverback went a step further and went, if you need someone to talk to or like rant to or whatever before finals, just to get stuff off your chest and just to like have someone to talk to and listen to and listen to you, then I'm free this week. Hit me up, and we'll go into a Discord chat, and we will just talk for like however long it takes.
Yeah.
And genuinely later that week, for 2 hours or something, I was in a voice chat with Silverback, and he just sat there while I ranted about how much I hated like Fatal and the issues I was having with the team or whatever. And Looney wouldn't have done that. As good a coach as Looney was, Looney did not care that much about his players. He genuinely wouldn't have done this. And this wasn't Silverback's team. I had gone into the team disliking Silverback, and Silverback just because when I played with him, we hadn't got along particularly well. And Silverback at this point already knew he was leaving WSL at the end of the split. So he quite literally could have just left it to burn and laughed from the sidelines while he left it behind. And yet he didn't, and sat in a call while I ranted at him for quite literally about 2 hours. And that for me is like what puts Silverback above Looney. Because like surely both have like really good game knowledge and both really care about freezing and about wave management and about the basics and about the importance of that. And sure, Looney might do it slightly better. I wouldn't know definitively because I wasn't on WSLR for Silverback's direct coaching. But what I do know is Looney would never have done that. And certainly not for a player which wasn't even really his player.
Right, so I'm going to ask an interesting caveat though. I think great point, and I think a lot of people can attest to that, especially when I joined WSL. My opinion is Silverback changed, but you're saying that that's the reason why Silverback's better than Looney. Now let me ask you another question: Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp? Because going off the reference of what you just said, you can look at your gegenpress and you can look at the tiki-taka football as two philosophies which work really well and are implemented really well. But one of them seems to give a hell of a lot about motivating and being there for the players, and the other one just cares about winning. At least from my perspective, does your argument for Silverback and Looney translate into football?
I think it can. I think Mancini was
can.
I think Mancini was sacked almost entirely off the basis that he didn't play about his players, to be honest. Like, obviously, he didn't win in his final season and lost to Wigan in the FA Cup final. But realistically, he's still been really successful up till then, and it was one bad season. But obviously, by that point, like, massive rumours had surfaced about him basically being abusive to the players behind the scenes. Not like, obviously, physically, but just shouting at them after every loss.
Yeah.
And he was basically sacked off that. And obviously after that, we had Pellegrini, who was like kind of the opposite, where he was basically a soft-spoken, gentle kind of man. So there's a City documentary, right, on Amazon Prime, I want to say, which like shows behind the scenes in our 100-point season.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't go as far to say that Pep doesn't care about his players, but obviously winning is what's most important to him. And he wouldn't be afraid to like ruin someone's career if he felt they weren't good enough, I guess. Because like Hart's career,
Claudio Bravo, Joe Hart.
yeah, exactly. He had their entire careers basically just thrown down the gutter by Pep because he felt like, and even like, I mean, obviously Yaya Toure had his career then rescued by City, only to be kind of semi-ruined by Pep's again. But Yaya's original career at Barcelona was somewhat ruined by Pep just being like, yeah, you're gone, I don't like you, bye.
Yeah.
So I guess to an extent, I guess the only counter argument I would say is that obviously Looney and Silverback have both had really good success. Silverback has already better success than Looney, whereas personally, I'm still not convinced on Klopp's success. Obviously, I'm biased, massively biased, and obviously Champions League is something that we haven't done, but obviously Pep has.
Yeah.
But I feel like until Klopp has more consistent success, I mean, Liverpool are basically set to win the Premier this season, so maybe.
Well, we don't know. It could be null and void.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But until I see like consistent success, I wouldn't, because ultimately, like, if you're a coaching job and a managing football, I would say your primary job is still to get the best out of that team and make that team win, right? And then a secondary part of that would be, it would also be good that if you actually cared about your players on a personal as well as just the success level.
So then that makes me come to a different question and two other different points. Is we could then throw in Luxa / Mourinho into the situation and say, okay, Pep Looney, we've got more success than you. Because I get it's a slide and bounce, and obviously you can go. Obviously, I'm always going to biasly say Alex Ferguson's the best, but on the other side of the spectrum, this is someone who didn't have the tactics of Pep and Klopp, and I can fully put my hands up and say that wasn't his forte. He wasn't this incredible tactician which revolutionised. But if anything, he just copied some basic standards in Europe. but the man management was what made him the greatest manager of all time for me. So when you throw in Mourinho and Luxor into the situation, who didn't really coach, or Luxor didn't really coach, Mourinho, who, let's face it, isn't the most progressive manager to ever coach a football
Maybe
team.
Mourinho is fatal. Does absolutely nothing but still wins.
Maybe so, but these are the guys that WSL have won every single time in VL they've competed. And Mourinho is, I think, the most decorated manager currently managing. I think, based off obviously the longevity. Definitely more Champions Leagues anyway. So I'm not going to say definitely because I could 100% be wrong, but I'm just going to make up shit and hope nobody fact checks it. But there's a balance, isn't there? So you because I've got to say that Klopp's better than Guardiola. I think City play better football.
Yeah.
But if I was a player and you ignore
Klopp.
teams, it'd want to be under Klopp. Would you say the same thing or no? If you ignore teams, I'm saying I'd play for a fucking Liverpool manager, so let's respect us just for a second.
If I ignore teams, would I rather play under Klopp? Probably. I think you've kind of hit nail on the head though, in the fact that depending on who you ask, Mourinho, Pep, and Klopp could all be the best manager in the world, even though they all have vastly. Because if you're doing it solely with statistics and what you say is true, Mourinho's won the most, then he's had the most success. Therefore, he must be the best manager.
Yeah.
If you're doing it based off like how much they've revolutionized football and generally how good the teams they manage play, just like from a statistics point, then you'd have to say Pep was the best manager. If you're doing it off both how well a team plays, but also when they're winning, how happy and how much the manager actually looks after and cares for his players, then there's an argument for Klopp there because he manages both well. He has really good football, better football than Mourinho's teams played, or certainly more interesting football than Mourinho's teams played. And then he also cares for his players, but on the opposite side, has had less success than both of those managers, just definitively. So I think if I was a player, it would depend on actually what I wanted. Because obviously I joined WSL to win.
To win, yeah.
Yeah. But now having won, I would choose Silverback as a coach over Fatal any day.
Right, okay.
Any day.
I mean, we also say that Silverbacks also always won, so it's not the perfect analogy, but...
Yeah, it's not perfect analogy because Silverbacks has got the best of both worlds. Hence why I call him definitively the best coach. But I think if it was if I needed to make a big break into the scene and make my name, I would choose Pep just to win something. If you're on a Pep team within 2 or 3 seasons, you should have won multiple things.
You'll definitely win the Capital One or Carabao Cup. You'll definitely win that.
But if you are a player who wants is broken into the scene young and so he wants something or whatever, and you want to genuinely improve as a player but still have some level of success, then I guess I would choose Klopp because you'll look at someone who is genuinely going to probably care about you, not just kick you out the second you have an argument, which is the impression I get from Pep. So the second Hart was dominant in that changing room, it's no, I'm the only person who's dominant in the changing room, get out. And it did so
well, we'll take it away from football for the people that are not interested whatsoever. And we're now going to look at Clayton's Academy, which is your current team. Obviously, we know you're not playing because obviously you've not got time. Your mum doesn't let you. I think was it your mum that doesn't let you play league at home when hard focus or whatever it is. And that's not important. You're subbing for Clayton's Academy. What's their coaching situation like?
Okay, so they have Agratar and a guy called Yuki, not to be confused with Fatal's in-game name because he's nothing like him. And from what I've seen so far, it's good. Both of them genuinely care about the basics in terms of CSing and so on. And then going into every game, it's sort of what do you want to play? What do you want to play tonight? Obviously, it has to be so in practice. You can't be oh yeah, I want the first time fucking Sejuani mid, but within reason, you're okay, I want to play this, and this, and you give them sort of short list. And then they'll go into game and be okay, this is good here. You have been practicing it. You can play it, but just bear in mind that if you don't do great in the scrum, then you probably won't be playing it much after. You'll get over chances in the scrims, but it won't be a sort of major fixture of the team because you have to prove yourself on it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a nice way to get. It's not that, once again, it's not the Fatal approach of, oh yeah, this is the meta, so this is what you're playing. Pros are playing jungle only. This is a good pick right now, but you also want to play it so you can play this thing. But it's still got this element of it has to be something which is fairly strong. And after each game, they sort of talked things through and was like, "Oh yeah, you played well today." I haven't been there for any VOD reviews, but I know they do VOD reviews and with the team and so on. And there's also the fact that already I've seen that. So the main mid Shadowhopper was like talking about things, and I've always seen them both of them threaten to, if Shadowhopper doesn't stay at a good level and doesn't practice his champion style, to be dropped for me, which like I still think is like, not that I'd ever want that. Like I think Shadow's a great guy, but I do think it's a good mark of a coach who isn't just like coasting through and being like, oh yeah, the players can do whatever the fuck they want. You know, this is actual. If you don't play well enough, we are going to drop you, and that's the fact of the matter. So what I've seen, it's good, but I can't give like a super definite answer on it just because I haven't been there for a VOD review. I've only played 2 scrim games with them, or like 2.5, I guess, because one of my games got scrapped. But so I wouldn't know for certain. But from what I've seen, they both seem like good coaches.
Okay, well, we'll talk about Claytron's Academy a little bit later on. Obviously, CNA versus Claytron's Academy will be coming up this Monday. Exciting game, one where you're the favourite, but we'll talk about that later. I want to go back to Pro because it's something we touched on earlier. Obviously, the shot calling from Valkent and how that all came to fruition. The bot lane of Stoned and Valkent, how well that worked. And obviously, in the end, when I came in for jungle for those 3 games and we didn't do too well. But I want to hear it from your, because my perspective is dead short. I'm going to join jungle. I'm maybe going to join Ike or Pro. And I'm not sure. Or I'm going to stay at WSL as a sub, which I just knew was never going to happen. And it was Ike or Pro, which one am I going to go for? And I wanted another tryout at Ike, so I said, no, I wanted another tryout at Pro before I made my decision. But obviously, the next time we could do it as a team would be the game day. So I said, I'll join you. If it goes well, I'll stay. And if not, I'll go to Ike. We play the 3 games. The first 2 go dreadfully. Game 3, I'm just like, I just want to play Lee Sin. To be fair, I just run it down. I'm just in. Oh, to be fair, I still don't think I played the worst in that game. So there you go.
No, that was
So and then that was it. I went to Ike and you end up getting in a bunch of different people and
I left that team soon after actually.
And then that team exploded. So
yeah.
So talk to me about, first off, the tryout phase to join in Pro. Why Pro was a team you went for, when undoubtedly in that kind of in that split you would have been a relatively sought after player, and maybe not the highest of the high, but you're a well-known name. You've been around for a long time, longer than me, and also always had decent success as well. So what made you choose Pro over everybody else, and then what happened?
Okay, so I'll keep choosing easy. Basically, I was on holiday. I obviously can't play League on holiday. I was on holiday to basically a week before like we started the actual split.
Oh, of course you were. Yeah.
So obviously, I wasn't expecting any team to give me a shot because I couldn't practice and scrim with them. I had a couple of teams being like, "Oh, you can be a sub, and if you like prove your way over the season, you can take the main spot."
Yeah.
But obviously, they couldn't give me a main spot. Pro, however, were like, we're willing to take Valk's like, I've seen you play, I trust you, I'm willing to take a shot on you. And I was like, okay, I just want to start in lineup. That's fine. If it goes horribly, it goes horribly. So that's why I chose Pro. Valk was really nice about that, to be fair, because like no one else would take a chance on me, and deservedly so, because they practice. And then we screamed a couple of times. It all went well. And then the season started. Sandbag rumors flew, which of course were perfectly valid. And
do you know if he was the jungler? What was his name again? ILK,
Olu.
was it? Olu, that was it. Yeah. Got a pentakill in the first week, did he?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's like the what I call like the I Endeavor breed of Sandbag, which is that it wasn't that he didn't like, it wasn't that he didn't want to play ranked just to play in the league, stay in the league. It was that he hadn't enjoyed playing ranked until he met Miwa, and they duoed and climbed extremely fast from like having been like silver to like plat, whatever.
Yeah.
And then had joined the league with Miwa, and then been told you can't climb any higher, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, it's not quite like I Endeavor, because obviously Thomas just doesn't play ranked whatsoever. Whereas Olu at that point still wanted to play ranked, but hadn't been playing ranked at all. So been from like nothing to, obviously you can only climb so far if you haven't ever played ranked before, if that makes sense. Like had he started gold, he would have been hyped up by that point, to be honest. But then obviously once the split started and he was told he couldn't play ranked anymore, then at that point I think it was sandbagging, if I'm being honest, because in the run up to that split, he stopped playing ranked games because he couldn't to play in the splits.
Yeah.
Which like you could argue isn't sandbagging because, like, he's joined the team, and players even now probably don't want to, in the run up to the games tomorrow, probably aren't playing as much ranked as they would be because they don't want to overclimb their peak. But realistically, it was certainly dodgy to say the least.
Let's go on a bit of a tangent with that then, because I
Mm,
think maybe now it's not as much of a point, and admins have probably solved the situation with this new point system. But I remember
mm,
when I was originally like starting CNT CNA, and CNT obviously there was a time I got made homeless, so I had to completely revamp the roster from what it was.
yeah.
And I was trying to find a top lane, and now at the time Simon was a Yasuo mid lane one trick, so he was never in really conversation for the top lane. But he was
Right.
trying out. But I was like, this guy's not going to be good. Like he's just a Yasuo one trick playing mid. He doesn't even play top champs. But obviously, I was told about Merch, who at the time was playing for Azteca Gaming, who was Big Sexy's team. I don't know if you remember that.
Mm,
But was kind of the spot was given to John Joe,
mm,
and he was. I think he was silver one, but I didn't want him to hit gold because we didn't have a gold spot.
mm,
I sent him a message like, if you don't get gold, then we can try you out. If not, then like it's probably not going
yeah.
to happen. And his response was, no, I want to get gold. So in the end, CNA got made, and he joined that. But it's a weird conversation and situation to have if you're a
Yeah.
team owner or if you're a team owner, you cannot get the best player for the position if they climb one rank higher. And as a
Yeah.
player, you've got the situation where you can't even play in the league if you climb one rank higher.
Yeah.
Yes, there's ideally we're in a world where everyone gets to play in a very level league, but you're always going to get to a point where you are at that line.
Mm.
In your opinion, morally, who's in the right? The people who say no, fuck them, they should be playing, they should climb over, and then that's it, or the people that are just like, I just want to play, and I'm not that much better, I just am.
Yeah. I mean, I think the issue arises is where, like, I think it became fairly evident that Ollie was a lot better. Like,
Yeah,
obviously, Dewey was good as well, but then Dewey was proven to be sandbagging as well. And obviously, Lordio was really good as well, who I don't think is ever sandbagged, just like hard stuck somehow. Um, but for the most part, Ollie was a lot better than almost every other jungler in the league. And I think at that point you have to be like, okay, he obviously stopped climbing because he wanted to be on a team with his friend Miwa, but he should have still been climbing because one, it's not even like Iron Darius level. He wanted to play ranked, but then chose not to because he wanted to be on a team more
yeah,
than he wanted to play ranked. But I think the other issue arises where it's like, I know Springs brought it up in the past, where with this whole peak system, where you do sometimes, you're playing around for fun or whatever, and you climb far higher than you should ever really be, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
I'm technically peak gold 1, right? Which means had I climbed a couple more LP, my peak would be platform.
yeah,
Like, genuinely, I was in promos to platform at one point. But my current rank is gold 3, and I've been hard stuck gold 4, 3 for the last goodness knows how long. So, I mean, I think most people in the league would be like, okay, it's fair enough for him to be like, oh, one spot maybe. But ultimately, the fact that like most of my offers are still from Division 3 and 4 teams, which obviously are like the most of Gold Silver League. I mean, I think Division 3 allows that now.
yeah, it does, yeah,
Kind of shows that I'm not really to like necessarily so peak. I could, let's say I had climbed plat, then I wouldn't be at the peak. I would have like my peak would be a lot higher than maybe my ability actually is, if that makes sense. And I probably wouldn't have ever been able to find a team. So for some players, it might be a case of that where they're like, oh, I am in promos, right? To get into a rank that I'm not good enough to find a spot in this league for. Not even like not be able to play, but just genuinely not good enough.
yeah,
And to be like, oh yeah, they should keep playing is maybe a little unfair just because it would just ruin their chance to find fun, and they probably aren't that much better. Like, I don't think I am that much better than, so, or maybe I'm worse than the people like Ricardo Chewy, who I think is peak gold 2,
yeah,
Key, like peak gold 3 or whatever. But had I been plat 4, I would have been a lot more points higher.
yeah,
Um, so I think it's one of those things where it would take too much time for the admin to do it case by case, and I understand that. But in reality, it kind of is a case by case thing because Olu clearly was far too good to be playing in that league. But for other players, just maybe going back to the Merchant example, had Merchant stayed Silver 1 and played, right?
yeah,
I don't think anyone would have been. I mean, Merchant's a really good player, don't get me wrong, but I don't think anyone would have been like, oh, it's ridiculous how he's not climbed out of Silver, blah blah.
But to be fair, everyone
Um,
then later that split said the same thing about Simon. How the fuck is this guy silver? But no, yeah, I'm getting your point. You're
yeah,
a case by case. It's a grey area with that
yeah.
question, as long as they're not
Uh,
too good.
Yeah, but you can't redo a case by case because there's just not enough time to, and you're always going to have issues. Like the second you open up a case by case scenario, everyone is going to be appealing their own case.
Yeah.
Like you set a precedent that it is case by case and it can be appealed case by case. So I think in reality, it just has to be a hard, fast rule that, like they've done, they have to play set amount of games, and if you're above the limit, then it's bad. And if it's obvious you sandbagged to drop LP, like it came out to be the case with Dewey or whatever, then you're banned.
Okay.
Um, but also in the ideal world, I think it would be case by case because I don't think all these cases the same case as it would be for everyone else.
Tiny
Um,
tangent off our tangent. Then we'll go back to pro in a second. What about the ban system and some level of appeal? So we've talked. I'm going to
mm.
have Agrita on the podcast next anyway, so I
Oh
don't
yeah.
want to go into too much detail about my ban because I imagine this is going to be a topic with him. However, the deal with appealing bans and these indefinite
Mm.
bans. Obviously, Dewey's the situation at the moment, but we had Kires last season who obviously did something where, yeah, it was by definition wrong, but
Mm.
not everyone, but most people have kind of done similar things anyway, of kind of trying to get this tactical advantage. And to be fair, they fell for it. How stupid can you be? One of
Yeah.
those situations. So, granted, his was only for a split. But you've
Mm.
got some which are indefinite. What's your personal take on the ability to appeal a ban and just say, okay, like I did. Well, mine wasn't even as much as mine was just I'm sorry, please let me back in. Do content, okay. But for someone to say been out for a year,
Mm.
maybe they've grown up, maybe they've matured. If it was some kind of personality
Yeah.
determined ban, maybe it's just that they smurfed once and they were like, damn, I just want to play in the league. I made a
Yeah.
mistake. The league would now be inclusive of my rank,
Yeah. The league's changed.
and
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it again. It's just I want to play, and I felt worse. The fact that I wasn't able to play, then I would feel good if I had smurfed. And people do have this level of rehabilitation in their mindset,
Yeah.
in the same way that now I can't imagine Kiraz is going to abuse anything in this coaching position like he did at PMA. At
Yeah.
the same time, I'm not going to try smurfing again because, well, first off, I'm in the lowest division anyway. But
Yeah. Where would you be surfing?
but like it wouldn't ever be a thing that crossed my mind.
Mm.
Obviously, the last one I played in Div One, so it was still obviously in my head.
Sure.
What's your opinion and then on this indefinite ban and the ability to rehabilitate and then reapply to getting back into the league on a case by case basis, even
Yeah.
if we said case by case maybe wasn't the best.
Yeah. I think you should be able to appeal things. Like the reason I don't think you can do case by case with sandbagging or whatever is because it just means that you're going to have everyone left, right, center like sandbagging and then being like, oh, but I'm probably not really good enough to be in this rank anyway, blah blah. You know, it sets a dangerous precedent. But if you've
Yeah,
been banned and something has changed, like the league has changed, or you yourself has changed, I think you should be allowed to appeal it. I mean, ultimately, you have to accept whatever decision's made. So if it is appealed and you're told no, you can't, then that's done. And you shouldn't like go on and on about it and argue it all day. But I think you should genuinely be allowed to appeal it, especially like you say because the league has changed as a format. So especially lots of people who were smurfing because they could not play in the league and wanted to play with friends now can.
yeah,
I guess the only issue people have with it is that someone could argue that it's such an opinion thing, if you know what I mean. So it comes down to the admin's view on whether you have rehab. Certainly in things where it's just a matter of, oh yeah, I'm a better person now. That is not a definitive thing. It's an opinion of the admins.
yeah,
So I guess people would say, you know, it could be biased or whatever. But the reality of the matter is that's going to be true of most decisions unless it's based off a hard fact or statistic. So I think the appeal system is fine on case by case. I think that's a good thing to have on case by case. I say it's just other things where you look at like sandbagging or whatever, where if it's case by case, then people can abuse possible favoritism or whatever, which might exist. But actual after the ban's already happened and it being a appeal system, I think it's fine. I think it works well. I mean, like I said, I don't think you or Sirez are going to repeat your mistakes, and I mean, Sirez isn't a good enough coach to be in the league anyway, so no harm done.
We'll find out after Claytrons should get promoted how NSK do versus CLTA, unless NSK do get demoted at the same time. But that's another one. I mean, obviously, the three people in question who I think would be the conversational topic is Amy, who was banned entirely based off behaviour.
Mm.
Agrita, who was smurfing but could now play in the league, could he play again, despite multiple offences? But I think it was multiple offences. Yeah, it was, because Pickles man.
Yeah, multiple offences, yeah.
And then obviously the Dewey situation, which is what it is. But I think we'll leave that one to the admins to avoid too much general chat backlash.
Yes.
But let's go back to pro. So obviously you've
Yeah.
got Olu, who got this pentakill. People are saying sandbagging. You're doing pretty well. And who did you beat week 1? That was like the difficulty. Was it like Peg or
It was
something?
Dewey's team.
Yeah,
it
Dewey's
was Dewey's team. With Sean Bott and Charles in the mid.
Yeah, it
and
was
the
Elo
top.
Thieves. Yeah, Elo Thieves.
Yeah.
So after that, you're looking pretty good. Imagine you're feeling pretty good high. Everyone's kind of just randomly came together with 1 week left. No, because I think I filled in for a couple of scrims as mid lane for your team actually, because you weren't back yet. But anyway, you join. Things are going well. Week 1 goes decent. People are getting banned for things that are said in general chat. We all know the Luke Valk situation. I think it's Luke Valk. But then we move on to the rest of the split. How did it go? What was your mindset, and how were the performances, and what happened?
I think we went like 1-1 almost every week, or maybe we went like 2-0 and then 0-2. Anyway, I think we were like 3-3, which is like fine. And obviously, Olu was rated highly. Looney rated me highly in like his power rankings. Whether that was the general view on me or not, I don't know, because I know people have different views. But generally speaking, I think we're doing fine. But there were always issues behind the surface. One with me was attitude, and 2 with Olu. It kind of came out. The only reason Ollie was playing in the league was to like play with Miwa, basically as his friend.
Yeah.
Because basically Miwa being like, I really want to play. Come with me, Ollie. You're like my duo. Come do it.
Yeah.
And the more Miwa became detached from the team because he was aggressive, I guess. Very, like he would get very annoyed in scrims, and when people tried to criticize him, he would fully like leave voice calls and not message you for days. The more Ollie also became detached and just would not turn up for scrims because he'd be at work, but hadn't told us he'd be at work and wouldn't tell us anything, just would not turn up for scrims and so on. So it became clear that there were genuine issues with them as pairs. And then we dropped Miwa and had a conversation with Olu and was like, yeah, we had to drop Miwa. Are you okay still playing for us? Because we understand you're his friend or whatever. And Ollie was like, yeah, I'll still play. And we're like, okay, that's good. If we get a decent ADC and, I Endeavor tried out or whatever, then we should be fine because Olu's still good, the rest of the team's still there. And then Olu stopped turning up for basically everything. And we're like, okay, now we have to replace him as well. And then it was like our 2 best players realistically, because obviously they're both Plats, I think, and
who was your top lane? Was Stone to the top lane at the start?
It was Stone.
Right, okay.
So our team was okay, but like I think if you took a team of Stone top, me mid, and Valk bot, you wouldn't be surprised to find that in like a Valk support. You wouldn't be surprised to find that in like Gold Silver League, realistically.
It's definitely Div 2, Div 3 category, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably like Div 3, maybe Div 2. I stretch. Obviously, Valk's in Div 2 now, and so was Stone last season. But without those like players, it's nowhere near as good. And we had like possibly you joining, possibly Endeavor coming or whatever to sort of put it up again.
Yeah.
Because we did break you all, but in reality, we had that week where you failed, and that was a complete shit show. And we lost to DV playing, Lil Cloud playing,
Smite
Cinder
Sion.
Hulk, Cinder Hulk, Sion top, split pushing endlessly. And then understandably, he didn't want to join after that, which is perfectly fair. That was a complete mess. And then while at the same time, because Lil Cloud was mid for DV and Lil Cloud wasn't really a mid main, and Kui and I are still in contact from our days on 7DS, there started to be conversations I was having with Kui about possibly moving to be a sort of alternate for them. Like,
you went to DV, didn't you? Of course you did, yeah.
So with that bubbling under the surface and things getting worse and worse in games and in scrims, and I was not finding the caliber of players I thought we needed, I quit. I was like, I'm going to DV. I'm sorry. Like, I apologize to Valk because I genuinely think Valk is a nice guy. And like, he took a chance on me when no one else would. And I do like even now feel bad for doing that. But at this point, I still hadn't won, and I was like, I just need to make playoffs, and this isn't going to happen with this roster, is it? So like, so they put Stone bot. I don't know what the fuck happened top and jungle and mid, if I'm being honest. I think it was.
Well, who was the top lane in the lanes in the games that we played? Do you know?
I think we had. I think Stone was still top then, and we had a different ADC.
No, it was definitely Stone AD carry.
God knows.
Definitely
God
Stone
knows.
AD carry.
It was actually a complete mess.
Oh no, it wasn't. It was Stone Top, and it was that other fella
Mm,
who Tease. It was Tease AD
yeah,
carry.
Tease was ADC, but then with Stone came ADC, Tease went mid, which was his main role, to be fair. And
Yeah,
then I don't know who was like jungle on top, but I was like abandoned ship at that point.
yeah.
And then I played out the rest of the split and UV. And then entered the playoff qualifiers against Claytrons, but we won't talk about that.
We don't need to talk about that one. Deadwood's
That happens.
Valk's a strange personality within the league, and I fucking like Valk so much. He's one of my favourite people in the league, despite me not always getting on a conversational basis with him. I mean, the reason I joined CL in the first place was I played on PWC.
Mm.
Amy and Valk were bot lane. Amy was still called Tom back then, so when I joined back and found out it was an Amy, I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" But so Amy and Valk were bot back then. I left just because it just wasn't working. Like Amy was just a nightmare to play with, so I left. It was back with Ash top and Joycey mid, and then
Yeah.
I split up with my girlfriend, and I was in a rut. So I messaged Valk and just like, I think I just need to join a league team again. I was like, PWC was fun. They had like a good infrastructure, so I just messaged Valk saying, could I join again? It's like, is there any spots go open? It's like, no, unfortunately there's not, but there is a league with everybody in. And he was the one that brought me into CL in the first place, so you wouldn't get this awesome content if it wasn't for Valk.
Yeah, thank you, Valk.
and he's also got the personality where he's so complimentary of everyone.
Yeah.
In the team, and I've never met anyone else that's like that because it's such an egotistically driven game. I'm really good. If everyone played to my style and how I wanted them to play at all times, we'd win every game. Everyone's got that opinion. I've got that. I've got the opinion that if I could play with a team of 4 me's, I would never lose a game of League of Legends, which is completely deluded. But it's an opinion I've got. So when you get someone who goes against that grain and is very complimentary in the team and just like, oh, you did really well, and just overly complimentary, if that's even a fucking word, it is nice to be on a team with. But unfortunately, when the team ends up as it is, and there was always a shot calling issue with Valk. I mean, it'd be interesting to speak to. Do you know anything about Claytrons? What the shot calling's like at the moment?
I know from what Ice said in that power rankings thing, I believe they've been struggling a little bit. All I know is what I've seen from when Claytron scrimmed Claytron's Academy, and it didn't look as good as it did last season. I'll put it that way. But I have full faith in that team to come back because I feel like it should have a strong enough, like with Shenzhen and Key, even if he's top now, and like Valk and Otori staying in bot lane. I feel like that team should be good enough to like bounce back from anything, if I'm being honest.
It's an interesting point because I don't know. When you looked at Group B, was it Group B? Yeah, Group B last season. You had 2 teams, Claytrons and Bob, and everybody else was a fucking no-name that nobody respected. And it turned out that they were right to think that.
Yeah.
Now, people rated Bob because of 3 games at the end of the split before against Ike, Claytrons, and somebody else, and they won all 3. They beat Ike in a situation where we were falling apart, hence the pathetic performance against PMA in the semi-finals. Claytrons, again, who ended up doing well, who ended up making it to the semi-finals, but obviously because of they've faced OPN and lost, which meant when they got to rejoin, they automatically got to be in the semi-finals to face WSL. When in reality, if someone else had won that group, they would have had to play them, so they could have just lost in the quarters still, but we would have never known. So Claytrons could potentially be in this situation where they've been made to look good by the situations of who they faced. So they were in Group B, where the only team's Bob, who might not have ever been that good.
Yeah.
And they won it. And now they're in Group C, and they've actually got to play a real team again. So it could definitely go in one of 2 ways. Because I know when they asked me to be a coach way back when, because they just didn't have the shot calling. And they've got great players. You know, Beeg, really good top laner, like mental champion pool. But
now, isn't he?
Well, yeah, he's gone mid and Key's gone top, which is another conversation.
That's a weird swap. I'm not gonna lie.
I think it can only make the team worse.
I agree.
Based off Key is this control player who can very solidly hold mid, and Beeg was a player that you could potentially play through for whatever weird champion he was on. And I don't know if the bot lane's any people rate Atari. I can only put my own opinion out there. I don't think he's top 4 AD carry in VL.
I don't think that bot lane's good on a skill level, if I'm being honest. Like, it
It's
sounds really
not.
toxic, and like I don't want to offend anyone, but like in terms of individual players, I don't think Atari or Valk are like that good.
Yeah.
But they have played with each other for over a split now, and in that time, I mean, obviously they haven't played great competition, but I don't think I've ever seen them like hard lose, and they certainly have won lanes with like Zyra Khan or whatever, as you would hope. So my issue, I don't know what the carry on that team is anymore, because I don't see B carrying from mid unless he goes super late on his like on Kassadin. Key in theory could carry from top, but I don't know how likely that is when like everyone's just playing Ornn. And uh, maybe Atari's a late game carry, but then you're putting all your eggs in a late game basket for like Beeg and Atari to pop off.
For a player who's
I
not
actually,
particularly that good.
yeah, I actually don't know who the carry on that team is. That's my issue now. Like when Key's mid, I can be like, okay, the carry is the jungle mid duo. If
Yeah.
Shinjin and Key get ahead, they can carry that game until Otari and Beeg can do stuff late game on like Nasus or whatever. And like, but I don't know what the carry on that team is. It still Key from top lane? And if so, is bot lane just going to have to sit and not die while they camp top? I say, it's not that I don't think Valk and Altari are like smart. I mean, I've played with Altari, so I don't want to say too much. But from what I've seen, I don't think either of them are great. I don't think they're bad. I don't think they're the worst in their group.
We're talking, if you look at the power rankings, they're a 7, 7.5, but they're not an 8 and higher. Yeah.
Yeah, that I don't see either of them carrying apart from late on like a Kaiser or Zaya or whatever. Like I'm sure Atari can like position fine. I'm not criticizing that. And I haven't seen him play much, so I don't want to be too open about it. But I just do not know who the carry is on that team. Like for any other like top team, you can be like, oh yeah, this is the carry. Like even if you look at like K-Tron's Academy, I think most people would say, or certainly I would say, okay, the carry is that bot lane. Like they carry like Ice will track people early and will gank lanes and will neutralize the enemy jungler, and that bot lane should win 2v2 almost every time, and Honest will carry most of the games. That's my view on like K-Tron's Academy. And then similarly, if you look at like WSL Green last split, like I think most people would say, okay, Bower will carry late, and our mid and jungle, so me and Jack, will carry early.
Yeah.
Like that's the way I saw it. I don't know how that works on Claytons. I don't know who the carry is. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I hope they do prove me wrong.
I love the lag's so bad at the moment.
Oh,
there we go. The lag so I don't know if you've cut out now, but the lag is so bad at the moment, and it's going all slow motion. It's fucking hilarious. I don't know with Key and Shinzi. Well, we'll see if we can sort it. We'll just carry on.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I do get that, because it's weird, because if you're gonna make a Div 1 team and you're gonna do some kind of NHL style draft, and you're just saying, okay, we're gonna do all this first pick, second pick. You're not gonna pick Beeg, Kiyatari, or Valk for a Div 1 team. They are going to get let through the draft, and Shenzin's not. Shenzin could arguably be. I mean, I played jungle last split for CNT, right? And I got to play all the Div 1 junglers, and I know who was decent and who wasn't based off that. And the only two that I thought, fuck, I've got to think. Usually I lost on mechanics, but the two junglers that made me think, fuck, I've got to think. I can't just autopilot jungle and not get punished. Was Lordio and Igni Luke. And now Igni Luke is in top lane. So you could very easily say that Shenzin is in competition for the second best jungler in VL. Now, obviously, there's new junglers that have come in, and we can only judge them over time. I think Pyro Tom's got really good potential for being a top jungler, the new CNT one. But if you ignore the new people and just say they are unknowns at the moment, they're just sevens. If you're going to classify that power rankings as a global standard, Shenzin is in that 8 category when not many other people are, and it just makes me think, how can that team really play around Shenzin? But it'll be interesting. Group Div 2, sorry, looks like an exciting group for a change.
Yeah.
Beats WSL Red, just rolling over it, and then John Joe and Arian just having a good time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
It definitely.
I hope they prove me wrong. Like I like all of them. Like I don't know who. I don't know how they're going to win. It'll be interesting.
So let's go to Claytron's Academy versus Centurion Academy. Now you said just before the call started that you've got an opinion on how this one can go.
Yeah.
You think CNA have got ways they can win, but you think Claytron's Academy will take it. Now I'm going to already start with your very honest analysis of them, thinking that it's Ice in the early game making stuff happen, but it's the bot lane that's the key. And I think when you looked at the power rankings, that kind of echoed that as well, of Ice being the
Mm,
best player, but Honest and Chime being pretty decent. How do you see
mm.
that matching up against CNA roster, which you're pretty familiar with, to be fair?
Yeah. Okay. So top lane, I think there's no way Spinners lose to Somfort unless some weird shit happens. I don't see how Spinners could lose that. It's possible depending on the matchup that they go even, but I think Spinners is a lot better than Somfort if I'm being honest.
Hmm.
I think in mid lane, it could be go either way and probably just comes down to jungle attention if I'm being honest. Like I think Shadow, Hopper, and Nivarian, neither of them are like major carries unless they get like fed off something else, if that makes sense. I'm not sure either of them are gonna like solo win that lane.
Yeah, that's
Um
accurate.
but with like help from jungle, either of them could win that lane. And then bot lane, I think Honest and Franklin are both two really good carries. Franklin's probably slightly better in late game because Honest can make some positional mistakes. I think Honest is probably slightly better in lane. Um, but I think Chime is probably better than Serenica in lane from what I've seen.
What percentage
Um,
would you say? If you say 100% is definitely better, 50% is it's a coin flip, how much better is Chime than Serenica?
75%. I'm fairly,
25. Okay.
but I could be very, very wrong. So the way I see it is that Ice is like a smart jungler. Like he might not be like the most mechanically gifted. Like he can do a good EQ flash combo in Jarvan, but that's about it. Um, but he is smart and he will track the enemy jungler super well. He'll like always tell you where it is, where the enemy jungler is, and he will play either towards that to counter gank or away from that to get another lane fed or whatever. And he'll recognize, oh, I need to get bot ahead, or I need to get mid ahead, or mid has no flash, I can go and gank this now, and he'll just do it. Like he's just smart rather than like super. Oh yeah, I'm gonna just outplay this 1v2 in the jungle or something.
Yeah.
Um, and I think in that he's quite reactive. Like let's say it's more like, oh, I know where the enemy jungler is, or the enemy jungler is just shown top, so I'm going to go bot and do this, or I know the enemy jungler is probably ganking bot, so I'm going to counter gank this. But I wouldn't necessarily say he's like the most proactive. Like he ganked, but not like super super. Certainly when I him on WSL Green when he was on WSLR, I wouldn't say he was super proactive. I didn't feel like he'd run around the map. I just felt like wherever I was, I knew it, and he knew what to do while I was there.
Yeah.
Um, so the way I see you guys winning is if either you can snowball mid massively out of control and Franklin goes even bot and then scales, or if you can snowball bot so that Honest isn't a threat anymore and Franklin just carries that game. Like that's the way I see it happening. Is that you can win through you, like if you are super proactive and can get
Yeah.
Franklin to that later point. But I think in most games, Ice will know where you are, and that won't happen. Which is why I think most of the times Clayton's take it.
So are you saying that it's a better jungle wins
Yeah,
situation?
I think so. And I think in most games, Ice is the better jungler, if I'm honest. Also,
I gave myself a 7 and Ice a 10. I'm not trying to say otherwise.
yeah,
There's a reason I
yeah,
wanted him to be CNA jungler and me not to play at all. I'm not gonna I'm
yeah,
not gonna say anything on that. But I think that brings an interesting point, and I do agree. I think you've given me a lot of insight into not only
yeah.
your
Spoilers.
perspective of CNA and how accurate that may or may not be,
Hmm,
but also on Clayton's Academy as well. And it's going to definitely
yeah,
make for an interesting game, which makes it exciting because that is week one, and it'll be a good little hype video for this, I imagine. But it does beg the question, and this I'll go into maybe 2, 3 more points before we end the
hmm,
podcast. What I had this conversation with John Joe and Byron, and
hmm,
I have the opinion that are relevant of composition or mid to late game team fighting, split pushing, or whether it's you've got your siege, your engage, your disengage, your split pushing, whatever you've got. I don't think that really matters in composition. I think it matters on three things. It
hmm,
matters. These three things are how I imagine all teams play. I'm fucking mumbling my words, but that's okay. There's three ways that teams can play. There is
hmm,
reactive, proactive, and predictive. That's how I view it,
hmm.
right?
Okay.
And that's in order. Proactive will beat reactive, and predictive will beat proactive. Predictive v reactive, you get a weird little mix where somehow Bob might be Ike, but usually predictive will still win because they'll know that they
Yeah.
will predict that they are being passive and then can make the
Yeah.
correct play. And I imagine that 90% of the good teams in VL fall under this
Hmm,
proactive category. They realise that everyone's just trying to not die because everyone's scared that they're on stream. They know this is an official game. They don't want to be the reason their team loses. But the teams that make that proactive call and make that dragon play happen, that fight happen, this rotation happen, tend to get the advantage. And that's why you tend to get the meta in VL fall in the way that it does do. And I think it's always been this way, of where if you get your jungle and a support on an engage, you've got more tools to be proactive. And as I've previously said, if you're proactive, you're better than the reactive team, which is why Jarvan Sejuani, Alistair Leon, and Nautilus are always the 5 champions that you see in 90% of games, unless people are trying to counterpick with the Trundles, with the Morganas, etc. And I think that's where you get the VL meta from. And I don't know where this point was going, but I just think I wanted to rant. The third one was predictive, and I think you get very, very few teams that are able to do this. And I think the best team at it is Plague, and I think it's the only team that I've seen do it. Unfortunately, CNT didn't get to play Paradox properly last split, only one game, but we didn't have Ben top, we had Nav. So I'm not really going to count that as an accurate accurate
game
representation. But the only team that I've seen actively do this predictive style was Plague, where they can read wards, read the map, make plays based off where the opposition are. And that's the reason where I'm trying to play this proactive style. And CNT are the best proactive team in the entirety of VL. And I don't think anyone can disagree with that as a fact.
No, I think it's true. I think Bramesh plus Kiz guarantee that.
Yeah, they're always going to be proactive. They changed me into a very proactive jungler, and Ben was always proactive in his lane anyway. He tended to win the 1v1. And that's why Krululu has this thought of Wellesley of being this kind of neutralizer, when in fact he will carry anyway. I think he's the second best, if not best, AD carry in VL. But that's another point. I'm tangenting a lot. Plague are this best predictive team, which is why you saw Kui roam into the topside jungle at level 4, because they just knew that I was going to do something and was able to stop it. It's like, why is Morgana here? But he was. It shut me down, and then it just became to a point where I couldn't do anything, despite me really trying to camp top that game. And that's where the predictive style wins. And I don't think there's a lot of teams that do that, which is why the opinion of the meta changes. To go into more detail, I think the proactive team in this stage 2, the more proactive team will win. So we had 3 to 4 proactive points, which is why we were usually better. And I say I don't know where that rant was going, but what we were told, that's why you don't drink half a bottle of wine on a podcast, despite being really cheap shit. What were we talking about? CLA versus CNA?
And I was saying that I thought Ice was good at tracking people, and probably that he was
good at tracking people. Yeah, that's where the predictive and proactive point came up.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this is my take on the NSKA versus Sacramentum game. Is when I scrimmed against NSKA, I felt, well, to be fair, we hadn't found our style yet, but it never really worked. And I was trying that old school, still playing for CNT proactive style, and it just didn't make things happen. They neutralized it, and sometimes we won the early game, and then it was like a coin flip to whether we actually won the game. But 9 times out of 10, they won the game in general. Whereas now we've changed our style, and after we changed our style, we scrimmed Sacramentum, and we went 1-1. But I felt like the first game we lost, and that was us trying to find our feet with this new style of play that we were going for and this new mentality. By game 2, we had perfected it, and we absolutely steamrolled them. And I don't think they can say otherwise. Game 3, they then tried to counter our game 2 by being incredibly proactive to match our proactiveness. It was a weird style of proactiveness, but I don't want to talk in too much detail, because if we can beat Claytron's Academy, that'd be nice. And maybe telling this to a Claytron's Academy support substitute isn't a good idea. But them being extra proactive was able to get him a decent early game advantage. We still had an early game advantage elsewhere. Ended up neutralizing, but I think it could be a very interesting game. But I do agree with that point, and that's where I was going to go back to, is if this better jungle wins. Do you think that consistently, and I'm not talking about the higher leagues, but particularly in the silver gold leagues, the Div 1, Div 4, Div 3, that it's every game is a better jungle wins game? Or do you think otherwise? Because that's personally my opinion.
I think it's true a decent amount of the time. So, like, I think that's what makes Ice so valuable, right? Because, like, I think Predict 1, which almost I don't know anyone who has anywhere near as good jungle tracking as Ice does. Certainly not in Silver Gold or, like, Div 1, Div 2. Like, I generally, that is what makes him so good. Like, he will be proactive, like, he's predictive proactive, but lots of his proactiveness comes from because he knows where the enemy jungler is. Which, like, I've never had a jungler, certainly in low divisions, who's that good at that. But the only time I'd say it's not quite true is because I was jungler for WSL Green last year, right?
Yeah.
In lower divisions. And I would say I was, by the end of that split, one of the best junglers. But that's not really saying much because junglers were trying to trash. But the only jungler I would say who was better than me was Wavy on Hentai Haven. And game 1 versus Wavy, he played the least, I played the Sin. And anyone who watched that game knows full well I inted it. Like, genuinely ran it down. Like, it did absolutely nothing early apart from, like, the occasional flash kick. And Wavy got, like, 7 or 8 kills early. But we stole the Baron because Wavy can't smite. And we won off it. But we might have won anyway because Bauer was so farmed up and fed on Zaya, right?
Yeah.
So I think if the teams are relatively even, and we're talking about, like, within reason, I think it's fine. But I think when you have a case where, like, Hentai Haven just obviously weren't particularly taking it, like, Dan's a good ADC, but, like, they weren't taking it particularly seriously. It was the light mid or whatever. So I think we had the better mid. I think in terms of the 2v2, we had the better bot lane. They weren't taking it seriously, whereas we were. At that point, just because Wavy's the better jungler doesn't mean they can win that game.
Well,
so
okay.
I think better jungler mid is the case as long as it's relatively close. But one of the differences between WSL Green super tryharding and Hentai Haven picking Warwick top, and I mean they won that lane, but you get my point. Picking Warwick top at that point, better jungler might not be enough anymore. Although they probably still deserve to win that game if it wasn't for Wavy not knowing how to smite. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe better jungler does always win.
Well, yeah, you got the smite, so there you go.
I didn't. That is why I stole it with the Q.
Ah, right, okay. But yeah, it's just a weird opinion that I've got. But I want to talk about someone else for a little bit who's maybe not got as much publicity as maybe could have been deserved. I mean, I didn't watch this part of the power rankings, but Exorcist, CNA's old jungler. Now I'm going to talk about him a little bit. So he joins the team as a player that's never played competitive fives before, and I'm like, we were desperate for a jungler after you ditched us. Cheers, by
I'm
the
sorry.
way.
Anytime.
And he was one of the people that was there, and I was speaking to him over text, and I was like, we need someone who's going to be able to shot call because that team doesn't have a shot caller.
Right.
And he was pretty confident. He was saying the right kind of things. We played a couple of games, and I was giving them all 5 of them, very strict instructions on how to play. And he seemed to follow that really well. He was very vocal, very proactive, and really got the best out of everybody. The issue was, and for the first 2 weeks of the actual split, that was the same. We beat NSKA 2-0. We beat Inca 2-0.
Yeah.
It was then at that point that we had a week to prepare for WSLG, and we knew you guys did this Rift Herald swap. So we were trying to think, okay, let's try and play through topside. But Somtha was no longer available. He had to go on holiday. So we brought in Mad Skills, who's Franklin and Serenica's IRL friend. And it's like, right, okay, so he's a gold player. He's used to playing top lane. He's got some nifty champions in his pool, particularly Camille, who I'm very good at, subjectively. So I can try and talk him through it and try and carry through top lane. Because if we try and carry through bot and then making this play happen, we need to be able to counteract it somehow. We need to be able to win this. This is what's going through my head. I'm overthinking it, which is what's happening. Because I'd given them all very strict instructions on how to play. It was working. But now we're trying to adapt to a team that knew how to beat us. In reality, what I should have done is just played for our style anyway, accepted that we knew that what you were going to do, you knew what I was going to do, or what we were going to do, and just probably accepted the fact that we would have lost, and then done the same thing versus Hentai Haven, won the game, NSK would have beaten you, and it would have been us versus NSK in the final, somehow. But unfortunately that didn't happen, because we tried to change our style. And I think the fact that I always gave Exorcist so much, because of this opinion of better jungle wins, I always gave him so much instruction. It maybe limited what he could do as a player. And he felt too much pressure. He felt too much pressure from the laners, and I enabled that pressure because of this opinion that I've got. Granted, I was a jungler at the same time, so I was giving myself this much pressure, which is probably why the finals ended up as they did. But because of us trying to change this playstyle and it just not working because of the limitations of people as players all across the map of how much resources they need and attention they need on the Rift in the early game. It never really allowed Exorcist to be the player that he was. And if you ask anyone on CNA of something of Franklin and Serenica, they said when he left, Trigger, we've now lost our best player. What are you going to do about it? That's literally a message that was sent in the CNA server. It's like, shit, shit. What am I going to do about it? So we tried to get Ice, and he said no. But now you've said, in your opinion, that the only jungler that was kind of close was Wavy. Now Exorcist is playing in Div 1.
Yeah.
In your opinion, based off obviously the things I've said, but obviously your opinion, I've never played versus him. You have in 2 games. How do you reckon that's going to go?
Him playing in Div 1.
Playing in Div 1, yeah.
What team is he on? What team is he on?
CNC actually scrimmed him the other day. Just give me a quick second to look. Am I going to leak anything? Potentially.
Please don't.
No, it would only be leaking CNA stuff, CNC stuff.
Wouldn't help you.
Probably not the best idea.
No.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it actually because I don't want to leak picks.
Yeah.
But it was that team that they played. They scrimmed.
No,
they won game 1, but I think that's just a typical CNC thing of just picking whatever the fuck they want because they think it'll be easy.
I don't know. I don't know how good the rest of the team is, so I can't judge that part. But when I played versus him, if I'm being honest, I don't think I ever felt threatened. But that might have been because his champion pool was. So I remember, isn't he just like Skarner Nunu? Is that all he plays?
He was a Nunu one trick, yeah. I encouraged him to try and play other stuff. Skarner became one of them. I wanted him on CC champions because that was my philosophy back then. If everyone has CC, everyone has ways to start a fight, which means that you've got enough tools to be proactive. Going back to my earlier point, he was going to play Trundle in the game against you, I think, but Franklin didn't own it because I think he picked Sedge, and we were going to pick the Trundle, but he didn't own it, so we ended up picking something else like Skarner, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, certainly in the games I played versus him, I don't think I ever felt threatened. Like I said, the only jungler I remember thinking, "Oh my god, this person's actually just better than me," was Wavy.
Yeah.
Where like I said in that game where I just got completely run around the map, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm actually just trash at jungle." I mean, I think I improved between then and the end of the split, so I don't know what would happen if I played Wavy again. Suspect still would have lost, but so I can't say I felt threatened by him, but maybe he was better than I remember. Honestly, though, my memory of the CNA games was you were like complete mess. If I'm being honest, like it didn't feel like because I'm pretty sure we went 2-1 against every team apart from Hentai Haven, but that's because of weird bounce deal.
Yeah.
And you guys, where we just like straight up clean 2-0'd, if I remember correctly.
Well, yeah, you played 4 games. You went 2-0 against 2 and 2-1 against 2. Come on, let's not make it sound as worse. Let's not make it sound worse than it was.
2-1 was the scrim where we genuinely entered like the weirdest fight ever. But in the actual league game, we won 2-0, I think.
Yeah, because we had a decent scrim against you.
Yeah, we had a scrim game where we like did a Baron call. I mean, this is the Bauer Craft combined shot calling where we did a Baron call. Franklin respawned and ran straight to it and Civ and got like a quadra kill, and then the game was just over.
Oh yeah, that was the game we had 4 tanks and a Civ, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, 4 tanks and a Civ. The Civ wasn't like that far ahead. She had like 2 kills, and then she got like 4 at Baron. I was like, oh my god, the game's over. But yeah, my memory was that he wasn't that good, if I'm being honest. But that could have been because of, like you said, the weird pressure thing which is going on, the fact that he had a field top laner. It could have been because I feel like if I'm playing like tanks into someone, there's not that much. Like ultimately, it's just going to be better. At that point, it's kind of like their team wins as long as I hover the right lane. So that makes sense because if I'm playing Sedge and they're playing Skarner, if he gets fed on Skarner, it's not going to suddenly like ruin the game for us. You just back QSS.
Forehead.
Yeah, exactly. I'm insane. But maybe I'm not giving enough credit, and maybe he could be really good. Like off what you said, it sounds like he is genuinely really good, and like I trust like Franklin's judgment on players.
Well, my judgment is he's not, but Franklin's judgment is he is. But obviously, the amount of pressure I put on him and the expectation I had on him is different. Now I've got to fill the role. I've got to put my feet in those shoes.
Junglers I played, because I played lots of group. What's now Div 3 and Div, because I played Ice a lot because we were often in-house scrimming with WSLR.
Yeah.
And Ice I felt was better than me, but was somewhat predictable when I played him. But I think his pathing's got better now with coaching. So I think Ice is actually maybe just a monster at this point. But I don't remember him being difficult. I think I thought I was the better jungler. I still think I'm the better jungler.
That's fair. We won't keep you on for too much longer, Craft, but cheers for coming on. The last thing that we'll say is obviously you've said your piece on the CNA versus CLTA game, but I want to hear your personal predictions. Obviously, not part of the power rankings. Your personal predictions for how Group A is going to go, and as well as not only the order of the 5 teams, I also want you to. I also want the MVP of the group, the worst performer of the group, if you know enough about the teams, and then just explain the reasons why between the 3.
Who's all the teams? CLA, Inkerton, you guys.
Hentai Haven and Vengeance.
And Vengeance. I don't know much about Vengeance, so I'll have to be. But okay, so CLA win and go and beat them because So I reckon they beat every team handedly apart from Inkerton. And the game we play Inkerton, I already know I'm filling for because Shadow's working. And if I predict against myself, that'd be stupid. So yeah, they go undefeated, win the entire thing. MVP, either Honest or Ice, depending on. I think it might go to Ice just because people in the community rate Ice so much. So like, I feel like if he has a good split, people are going to be like, "Oh yeah, Ice is MVP." But I think Honest is really good as well. Honestly, that entire team's good. But yeah, I'd say Honest or Ice. Then Inkerton second, CNA third.
Why Inkerton over CNA?
Because that's the jungle wins.
Fair enough.
I don't. I mean, I think you're genuinely good, but I don't rate Somfort or Nav. I actually think they might be some of the worst players in the group, if I'm being honest.
I obviously disagree, but fair enough for your opinion. Who's underneath then? Hentai Haven or Vengeance? Vengeance is 3 unknowns, but Azkoth run bot lane. Hentai Haven is Bombing Dude, Delight, Motor Joe, Copyfire, Ronnie.
Yeah. I mean, I think on paper it has to be Vengeance and Hentai Haven. But Hentai Haven, I kind of love all of them, and they always seem to pick up wins they shouldn't. So maybe Hentai Haven and Vengeance. Let's do that. Vengeance the last. Worst player, because I can only go off the ones I know, it might actually just be Somfer. I think he's really bad, if I'm being honest.
Okay. I will say I know for a fact you're wrong, but it's nice to hear your opinion.
I've never seen him do anything. I'm not gonna lie.
No, that's fair. That is fair. He's a very good mid laner. I forced to play top lane because I like his personality in game.
I'm not talking about like mid lane. I'm sure he's good mid. And like, I'll take that thing about Nav because I actually think Nav can be good. And like, I think I said in the Discord chat a couple of days ago when you're like talking about, a week ago maybe, when you're like talking about struggles of CNA at the moment.
Yeah.
And trying to get Franklin to late. And I was like, well, why didn't you just play through Nav early? Because I generally think that you could have a really good 2v2 jungle mid. Because I think Nav could be good.
Yeah.
Especially for the group he's in. Somfer, like, it's not anything against Somfer. Like, I played with him, and I think he's a really nice guy. And obviously, even when I played with him, I think he did get some solo kills or whatever, so I know he can be good. But in games I've played against him since on WSL Green or whatever, I don't remember him ever doing anything, and he was against Towie Top, who was currently rated as the worst player in VL, albeit in jungle now. So yeah. I can't give him too much credit.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I'm going to say something.
That is a fair point. I'm going to defend something before we end the podcast, though, because I refuse to let it end on that note. So not only has this guy had to adapt to top play and learn the champions that I told him to play in a very regimented team and play style, right? He's a guy that takes 0 resources and also provides resources from his lane to other people. Yesterday in a scrim against Sacramentum, I think, or it might have been the admin team, he did a TP play on Maokai at level 4 bot lane just because that's how I've made him play top lane. That was too much, but the amount he lost because of that was mental. But still, we ended up winning. I think we ended up winning the game. But he's not only got that, he also played a game against Jonjo and went completely even. There was a game when Jonjo played a non-tank and Sumter did play a tank that the turrets ended up falling. Never died solo, never died to a gank. Very solid. And in the majority of the games that we play with Sumter, he ends up with a positive KDA and is like a very key reason as to how we won. There was a game against.
Maybe he's got a lot better.
I think he has. I think he has.
Yeah,
There was a game we
hopefully it's been
played
lately.
against, I think NSKA, and it was a game that we
Mm.
won. And he was our only form of primary engage on the team. We had other ways to engage,
Mm.
such as champions with gap closers and CC, but they
Yeah.
were squishy to mean that they weren't the primary engage. And he was
Mm.
he was playing top against a very hard split pusher. I think I might have said the
Okay.
champions on the power rankings, but I won't now. So he was playing an engaged tanky champion against a very hard split pusher that will just sit
Yeah,
the
it's
entire game
NSKA.
top
It's like
laner.
all the play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he had the responsibility of not only allowing us to engage 5v4, but not meaning that the split push went wrong because our mid laner didn't have
Mm.
TP in this game. So he had so much responsibility to win
Mm.
us every single team fight, engage every single team fight without losing any objectives from the split push, and we won the game. So for me,
I mean,
I think Somtha could potentially be the biggest surprise player in VL. I don't think that he will lose a top lane in Div 4. The only competition is spawners, but even then, in my opinion. But obviously, we'll see how the things turn out.
I think Spin, if I'm being honest.
Huh?
But I hadn't seen something. Not even sure when we played last season.
Yeah,
We had something.
yeah, we did. Yeah.
So he could have improved a fuck ton, and I could look super retarded, or super stupid. But based off what I've seen, the couple of scrims I saw versus him, with the Rizal Green, and only because I don't know Vengeance lineup. I guess the other worst player in the league could be, I'm trying to think of Hentai Havens, maybe Bombing Dude, but I can't say that because we lost his Warwick top basically. So then I'll look really bad.
True.
But I can only go off the ones I've seen. Actually, I take it back. I know who's worst player in the league. It's Asko, right? It's got to be Asko. Yeah,
Right.
I take it.
There we
It's
go.
Asko.
Like that one makes a fuck ton more sense. Thank you for actually
Yeah.
growing some brain
I
cells.
completely forgot who Vengeance was. Yeah, I take it back. I'm sorry, Sulfur. No, it's Asko. It's defo Asko. Yeah, no, I take it back. Also, I'm sorry, Asko. You're a nice guy, I'm sure, but you're kind of garbage.
Although
stand by
I
it.
will say Asco's going to do bits with this or that type of content coming up. I don't know if you know this, but I've forced myself to be the content manager for the whole of VL
Oh,
because I'm annoyed with how bad it was last split. So
yeah, it's non-existent.
we're making stuff happen. There's going to be 2 streams for Monday and Thursday in week 1. Don't know how long that's going to be able to continue, but it means that
Oh,
not
that's cool.
only is NSK versus Sacramentum being streamed, but also Claytron's Academy versus Centurion, which will be an exciting matchup.
Where Sulfur will stomp top lane, and I will look
Exactly.
very stupid.
Exactly. But anyway, there's a bunch more stuff that we could potentially talk about, but I don't want to leave
Yeah,
people waiting for too much longer. Craft, cheers for
that's
coming
true.
on. It was
No problem.
insightful, interesting, and a little bit flamey, which we all enjoy. And good luck for the game that you scrim substitute for Inkerturn.
Yeah, we're gonna destroy him.
Catch you later, fella.
See you later.
Bye bye.